Smart Dad. Street Dad. What Two Fathers Taught Me About Money, Life, and Freedom. By Marco Rivera. A story of two men, two philosophies, and one boy who had to choose his own path. For every person who is told that a steady paycheck is enough, it isn't. Preface. Two men, two worlds. I grew up with two fathers. My biological father, I'll call him Smart Dad, was one of the most educated men I have ever known. He earned 2 degrees, worked for the government, and spent 30 years climbing a ladder that he believed was leaning against the right wall. He read constantly, spoke eloquently, and always had a thoughtful answer for every question I asked. He believed deeply in the power of education and job security. He told me, more times than I can count, get good grades, find a stable job, and save your money. My best friend's father, Street Dad, never finished high school. He built a small business selling spare auto parts from a garage when he was 19. By the time I met him at age 10, he owned 3 repair shops, a small apartment building, and a plot of land outside the city. He woke up at 5 in the morning not because someone told him to, but because opportunity doesn't wait. He talked about money the way most people talk about weather. Constantly, practically, without embarrassment. Both men shaped me. Both men loved me in their own way. But they saw the world through entirely different lenses, and those lenses produced entirely different lives. This book is not about blaming Smart Dad. He did the best he could with what he believed. It is about what I discovered by watching both men, and later, by making every mistake imaginable with my own money, before finally understanding the rules of the game that no one teaches in school. This is what I wish someone had handed me at age 15, before I wasted a decade doing what I was told. Chapter 1. The lesson begins in a garage. I was 11 years old. The first time Street Dad let me sit in on one of his conversations with his suppliers. His name was Don Ernesto, and I called him that for years before I was old enough to call him simply Ernesto. He had the kind of hands that looked like they had repaired 1,000 engines. Rough, quick, and never quite clean. He wore the same olive green shirt almost every day, and his office was a folding table in the back of his first garage, surrounded by shelves of catalogs and invoices held together with rubber bands. He didn't talk to me that day like I was a child. He slid a piece of paper across the table, a simple income statement for the shop, and said, "Marco, look at this. What do you see?" I stared at the numbers. "You made money this month." He shook his head. "I kept some money. The rest went to work." I didn't understand. He smiled. "The money that came in, some of it paid the rent, the parts, the men. That's normal. But some of it went back into the business. It bought a better lift for the bay, which means we can service more cars. That money didn't disappear. It's still working for me, even while I sleep. Money is either working for you or working for someone else. It is never resting." I went home that evening and told Smart Dad what I had heard. He listened carefully and said, "That's fine for people like Ernesto. But for most of us, the safest thing is a good salary and a pension." Neither man was wrong, exactly. But one of them was playing a different game than the other, and only one of them had written the rules himself. Chapter 2. The rich don't work for money. This is the first lesson, and it is the hardest one to accept. We are raised to believe that work produces money. You show up, you perform, you get paid. The more valuable your skills, the higher your salary. This is logical. It is also incomplete. Smart Dad worked for money. Every peso he earned came attached to an hour of his time. When he stopped working, on weekends, on vacation, eventually in retirement, the money stopped too. He spent 40 years trading time for income, and when his time ran out, so did the trade. Street Dad had a different arrangement. Early in his life, yes, he worked hard. He was exhausted. He sacrificed. But from the very beginning, every business decision he made was aimed at one thing: building something that would generate income without requiring his direct presence every hour. He was building a machine. He was training it, feeding it, repairing it. But eventually, the machine ran on its own. The emotion trap. Most people never start building because they are trapped by two emotions: fear and desire. Fear tells you, don't risk what you have. Keep the job. Don't rock the boat. Desire tells you, once I have enough to be comfortable, I'll think about investing. Together, these two emotions keep most people running on a treadmill their entire lives, working harder each year just to maintain the same position. Street Dad used to say, the rat race is not an accident. It was designed. Schools teach you to be an employee. Banks need you to need them. Governments need you to earn and spend. Everyone profits from your ignorance, except you. Most people work to live. A few people build things that allow them to live without working. This is not a cynical observation. It is simply a description of the difference between those who understand the financial system and those who don't. What this looks like in practice: when I was 24, I had my first real job, a marketing coordinator at a mid-sized company. I was proud of it. Smart Dad was proud of it. I got a salary, benefits, and a cubicle with a window. I thought I had arrived. 6 months later, Street Dad asked me what I had bought with my first 6 paychecks. I listed my rent, my groceries, a new phone, some clothes, and a short holiday. He nodded slowly. So you earned it, and then it left. That's normal, I said. Normal, he said, is not the same as wise. Chapter 3. Why the rich teach different things. The most important financial concepts I have ever learned were not taught in any classroom I attended. I studied economics for 2 years at university. We covered supply and demand, GDP, inflation curves, and trade policy. We never, not once, discussed how to read a personal balance sheet, how compound interest works against a borrower, or what an asset actually is. This is not an accident. Street Dad believed that financial education was deliberately absent from schools because an educated consumer is a less profitable one. Whether or not you agree with that theory, the outcome is the same. Most people graduate with no practical knowledge of how money works. The 3 buckets. Street Dad had a simple way of organizing financial knowledge. He called it the 3 buckets. Bucket 1. What you earn, income from work, business, or investments. Bucket 2. What you keep, what remains after expenses. Bucket 3. What you grow, money put to work in assets. He said, most people only think about bucket 1. They earn more, spend more, and end up in the same place. Smart people focus on bucket 2. Wealthy people obsess over bucket 3. Smart Dad's entire financial philosophy was about bucket 1. Get a better salary, earn more. His advice was not bad, but it was incomplete. A larger bucket 1 does not automatically fill buckets 2 or 3. I have met people earning extraordinary salaries who have nothing saved, and people on modest incomes who have built real financial security, because they understood that what you earn is less important than what you keep and grow. Your salary is the foundation. Your habits are the building. Your assets are the legacy. What is an asset? This is where most financial confusion begins. In school, we learn that assets are things you own. Your car is an asset. Your house is an asset. Your television is an asset. Street Dad had a different definition. one that changed how I saw everything. An asset, he told me, puts money in your pocket. A liability takes money out. That's all you need to know. By this definition, most of what people call assets are actually liabilities. A car requires insurance, fuel, maintenance, and depreciation. A large house requires a mortgage, property taxes, upkeep, and utilities. These things are not bad to own, but they are not assets in the financial sense. They consume income rather than produce it. True assets include income-producing property, dividend-paying equities, businesses that operate without your daily involvement, intellectual property that generates royalties, and any investment that puts money in your pocket whether you show up or not. Chapter 4. Mind your own business. Mind your own business. Smart Dad worked his entire career making other people rich. He was good at his work. He was dedicated, loyal, and highly competent. His employer benefited enormously from his 30 years of service. In return, he received a salary and a pension that, when he finally retired, provided a comfortable but modest income. Street Dad's view is blunt. You will never get rich making someone else's business succeed. You have to mind your own. This doesn't mean everyone needs to quit their job tomorrow and open a restaurant. What it means is that your financial life, your actual wealth-building activity, should not be entirely dependent on the decisions of an employer. Your day job pays the bills. Your business, your investments, your assets. These are what build your future. The column that changes everything. When Street Dad sat down with his children to explain money, he drew a simple diagram on a piece of paper. 4 columns, side by side. Column 1. Income, money that flows in. Column 2. Expenses, money that flows out. Column 3. Assets, things that produce income. Column 4. Liabilities, things that consume income. He said, the poor focus on column 2. The middle class add to column 4, thinking it is column 3. The rich build column 3. That is the whole game. For most of my 20s, I was focused entirely on columns 1 and 2. Earn more, spend more. When I finally understood the importance of column 3, everything changed. I started small. A single index fund investment, then a small stake in a friend's business, then eventually a rental property. These were not dramatic moves, but they were the beginning of building something that worked while I slept. The secret of the rich is not that they earn more. It is that they build things that earn for them. Chapter 5. The history of taxes and the power of corporations. Smart Dad paid his taxes faithfully every year. He was proud of this. He believed that paying taxes was a civic duty, and he was right. But he also paid more than he legally needed to, because he never understood the rules of the tax system. Street Dad paid his taxes too. But he spent years learning how the system was designed, and he used every legal tool available to minimize his burden. He hired accountants. He structured his businesses properly. He understood the difference between a personal expense and a business expense, and between earned income and passive income. He once told me, the tax code is written by lawmakers who are, themselves, business owners and investors. They did not write it to hurt themselves. Read it carefully, and you will find the path they left for the rest of us. Earned income versus passive income. One of the most important distinctions in the tax code, and one that most employees never learn, is the difference between earned income and passive income. Earned income is what you receive for working, your salary, your wages, your consulting fees. In most countries, this type of income is taxed at the highest rate. Passive income, income from investments, from rental properties, from business profits. You didn't directly generate. is often taxed at a significantly lower rate. This is not a loophole. It is a feature designed to encourage investment. The implication is powerful. If you can shift the source of your income from earned to passive, you can legally keep more of what you make. Employees earn, then are taxed, then spend what remains. Business owners earn, spend on legitimate expenses, then are taxed on what remains. This difference, compounded over a lifetime, is enormous. Chapter 6. The rich invent money. One of the most liberating ideas Street Dad ever gave me was this. Money is not a fixed resource. It is not something you find or are given. It is something you create. Smart Dad's world was linear. You had skills, you traded them for money, you spent the money. The more valuable your skills, the more money you could get. But the supply was always limited by your hours. Street Dad's world was different. He saw opportunities where others saw problems. He saw value where others saw nothing. He turned broken businesses into profitable ones. He bought land that nobody wanted, in areas that everyone would eventually want. He created money by seeing things that weren't visible yet. Financial intelligence. The ability to see and create opportunities is not innate. It is a skill, what Street Dad called financial intelligence, and it can be learned. Financial intelligence is made up of several components. Accounting, the ability to read financial statements and understand numbers. Investing, the science of making money from money. Understanding markets, the law of supply and demand. Understanding the law, tax codes, corporate structures, and legal protections. None of these are taught in school. All of them are learnable. The person who invests in their financial education, who reads books on investing, who takes accounting courses, who talks to accountants and real estate investors and business owners, will make decisions that the average person simply cannot. The most expensive thing in the world is ignorance. Not ignorance of science or history or art, but ignorance of how money works. The deal nobody else could see. When I was 31, I found a small commercial property in a struggling neighborhood. The owner wanted to sell quickly. He was moving abroad. The price was below market, even for that area. Most people I knew told me not to buy it. The neighborhood is bad. Tenants would be difficult. You'll have headaches. I thought about what Street Dad had taught me. See the potential, not just the present. I bought the property. I found a reliable long-term tenant, a small veterinary clinic. 2 years later, the neighborhood had improved. The property value had risen. And the rental income covered the mortgage with room to spare. I hadn't worked harder. I had simply seen what others couldn't, because I had invested in learning to see it. Chapter 7. Work to learn, not to earn. Smart Dad's advice on career development was straightforward. Find a stable field, develop deep expertise, and stay in your lane. Specialization equals security. Street Dad's advice was almost the opposite. Work to learn, not to earn. The best thing a young person can do is get paid to learn something new, not to perfect something they already know. He told me that the most valuable people in any economy are those who can combine skills that don't normally appear together. The engineer who understands marketing, the designer who can read financial statements, the salesperson who understands operations. The power of sales. If I could go back and give my younger self one piece of advice, it would be this: learn to sell. I don't mean manipulative salesmanship or pressure tactics. I mean the ability to communicate value, to explain clearly why something is worth what you say it's worth, and to help someone understand how it solves their problem. Street Dad said, every wealthy person I know is good at selling something. Their product, their idea, their vision, themselves. The greatest failure of the education system is that it produces people who are terrified of selling. He was right. I spent my 20s being afraid to ask for what I was worth. I underpriced my services, stayed quiet in negotiations, and left money on the table in deal after deal. Learning to sell, really learning it, not just reading about it, changed everything. You can have the best product, the best idea, the best plan in the world. If you cannot communicate its value, it does not exist. Getting out of your comfort zone. Smart Dad was deeply uncomfortable with ambiguity. He wanted a clear path, a defined role, a predictable outcome. This is understandable. And it is also the reason his financial growth eventually plateaued. The greatest financial leaps I made came when I did things I wasn't qualified for yet. When I didn't wait to be ready. When I accepted a deal that stretched me, a role that scared me, a negotiation I thought I might lose. Not all of these worked. Several failed badly, but every single one taught me something I couldn't have learned in a classroom. Chapter 8. Overcoming obstacles. Understanding financial concepts intellectually and actually implementing them are two very different things. I spent years knowing what to do and not doing it, paralyzed by 5 obstacles that I have since found are nearly universal. Obstacle 1. Fear. The fear of losing money is natural. What separates financially successful people is not the absence of fear, but the ability to act in the presence of it. Street Dad used to say, "Losers avoid losing. Winners know how to lose and learn from it." I have lost money. I have made bad investments, trusted the wrong people, and underestimated costs. Every one of those losses taught me something that no success ever could. The willingness to fail is not recklessness. It is a prerequisite for growth. Obstacle 2. Cynicism. The world is full of people who will tell you that your idea won't work, that the market is saturated, that success is luck, that the system is rigged. Some of them are right, some of the time, but they are always right about one thing: their own lives. Cynicism is self-fulfilling. Obstacle 3. Laziness. Busy people are often the laziest, because busyness is a disguise for avoidance. The person who works 60 hours a week but never thinks strategically about their finances is busy. They are also, in a sense, lazy, because they are avoiding the harder, more important work of building something lasting. Obstacle 4. Bad habits. Financial habits compound just as money does. Small bad habits, impulse spending, avoiding your bank statement, not reviewing your insurance, accumulate into significant problems over years. Small good habits, automatic savings, monthly financial reviews, one new financial book per quarter, compound into resilience and wealth. Obstacle 5. Arrogance. The most financially dangerous thing is believing you know enough. Every smart person I know who has made catastrophic financial mistakes made them in an area where they were overconfident. The antidote is simple. When you don't know something, find someone who does and pay them for their knowledge. The arrogant investor loses money with conviction. The humble investor builds wealth with questions. Chapter 9. The beginning, not the end. Smart Dad passed away at 73. He had a pension, a modest savings account, a loving family, and a legacy of integrity that everyone who knew him admired. He never became wealthy in the conventional sense, but he was a good man. And that, too, is a kind of wealth. Street Dad is 81. He still goes into one of his shops most mornings. Not because he has to, but because he enjoys it. His children are financially independent. His grandchildren have college funds. He travels when he wants to. He has built a life that runs without requiring him. I am not telling you one man was better than the other. I am telling you they played different games, and the results were different. The question this book is asking you is not, who do you want to be like? The question is, what game do you want to play? Where to start? If you have read this far, and feel overwhelmed. I understand. When I first encountered these ideas, I felt the same way. Here's what I would tell you now. Start with financial education. Read one book on investing. Read one on accounting. Start small. Audit your expenses. Know where every peso goes for 1 month. Most people are shocked. Build an emergency fund. Before you invest, have 3 to 6 months of expenses saved somewhere safe. Understand the difference between assets and liabilities. Then start buying assets, even small ones. Find a mentor, a real one, someone who has done what you want to do. Learn to sell. Take a course, read a book, practice. It will change your life. Be patient. Wealth is built in decades, not quarters. None of this is complicated. It requires discipline, curiosity, and the willingness to act before you feel ready. Those are not qualities you are born with. They are qualities you choose. The best time to start learning about money was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. Epilogue. The letter I wished I had received, dear younger me. You are going to receive a lot of advice. Most of it will come from good people who love you and want the best for you. Most of it will also be incomplete. Because most people only know what they've been taught, and most people have been taught the same things. You will be told to study hard and get good grades. Do this, but understand that grades measure one kind of intelligence, and there are others. You will be told to get a stable job. Do this, but understand that stability is not the same as security, and a salary is not a strategy. You will be told to save money. Do this, but understand that money in a low-interest account is slowly losing value to inflation, and saving is not the same as investing. You will be told not to talk about money. Ignore this. Money is not impolite to discuss. It is the most practical subject in the world, and avoiding it will cost you decades. The most important things I want you to know are these. Your financial education is your responsibility. No one is coming to teach you. Start now. Assets are what build freedom. Buy them as early and as often as you can. Fear and comfort are the 2 greatest thieves of potential you will ever encounter. The people telling you something can't be done are usually not trying to do it. You will make mistakes. They are the curriculum. Do not let them stop you. The game of money is not rigged against you. But it is not explained to you either. That is the advantage you now have. You know the rules. Play wisely. Marco. Key concepts. A quick reference asset: anything that puts money in your pocket. Real estate that generates rent. Stocks that pay dividends. A business that earns without your constant presence. Liability: anything that takes money out of your pocket on a recurring basis. Car payments, mortgage payments on a primary residence, consumer debt. Cash flow: the direction, an amount of money moving through your life. Positive cash flow means more is coming in than going out. Building positive cash flow from assets is the goal. Financial intelligence: the accumulated ability to understand accounting, investing, markets, and law, and to use that knowledge to create and protect wealth. Passive income: income that arrives without requiring active work in the moment. Rent, dividends, royalties, and business profits from well-run operations are common examples. The rat race: the cycle of working to earn, spending what you earn, needing to earn more, and never escaping because no assets are being built to produce independent income. Earned income: income generated by trading time and labor for money. This is typically the most heavily taxed form of income. Compound growth, the process by which an investment grows exponentially, because returns are reinvested. Time is the most important ingredient. Starting early is always better than starting perfectly. About the author Marco Rivera, grew up in a small city, watching two very different men navigate the world of money. After a decade of corporate work, several costly financial mistakes, and one transformative conversation with a mentor, he shifted his focus to building businesses and income-producing assets. He writes and speaks on financial education, entrepreneurship, and the practical habits that separate financial independence from financial anxiety. He believes that the most important classroom in the world is the one you build for yourself. This is his first book. The game doesn't change, only the players do.